Dear Adolf, a letter to Hitler. The National Broadcasting Company, in cooperation with the Council for Democracy, presents Dear Adolf, a series of 6 narrative letters written each week by Stephen Vincent Benet, one of the nation's greatest poet-writers. These broadcasts are based upon actual letters written to Hitler by Americans. Our first program presents Raymond Massey, distinguished actor of stage, screen, and radio, relating the views of an American farmer as he addresses a letter to Hitler.
Will you get me the pen and ink, Mother? I want to write a letter. Got time enough for once. Weather looks as if it would hold. No, I'm not going to write to the boy. Wrote him last week to the camp and told him how things were going. He knows how it is. He was brought up on a farm. But there's lots of folks don't know. Got it on my mind ever since the boy went away. Kind of boiling and steaming up in me to say a few things to that fellow over in Germany that started all this trouble. Want to tell him just who I am and what I'm thinking. Maybe it's time I did. Got the pen, Mother? Oh, thank you. Now, you just let me think it out. Dear Adolf, this is me. This is me, one American farmer. 6 million farms and over in this country, last census. 6 million places where we can raise food for freedom. Food for the men on the ships and the men in the planes. Food for the boys like my boy in his soldier clothes. Food for Ed Summers' boy on his destroyer and Gus Taub's boy over in his tank plant. Food for all kinds of folks I'll never see in my life who are fighting on our side. My farm's just one of 6 million. But I want to say this. We're all against you, Adolf. Every bushel of wheat in this country is against you. Every furrow we plowed this spring, we plowed against you. Every time a hen lays an egg, that egg's against you. Every time an Iowa hog puts on another pound, that pound's against you. Against you and all your works. Because we don't like you and can't stand you, and we're bound and determined to get rid of you, whatever it costs us all. Ever think what it means to rouse up a free people, Adolf? Guess not. You see, we farmers don't talk much, never have. You can read in the papers about us, parity prices and such, but that's politics. That isn't our story. Our story's weather and land and the things that stay. The wind around the corner of the barn and the lambs in March. The look of a well-lined field. And the reason a man likes to grow things. The reason it's a satisfaction. The reason a man will put up with hail and drought and blight and blizzard and corn borers. Put up with them and cuss them out and fight them all his life and get through somehow. Just because he's got a fool idea in his head that that's what he was born to do. You hitched up the wrong horse when you thought that farmers can't fight, Adolf. Farmers are used to fighting. They fight every day in the year. You can call us cantankerous and slow to change. You can call us independent, too, because that's what we are. Our own government's found that out, and you're going to find it out, too. We're labor and capital, both. We got everything to lose if you win, and we know it. We didn't pay undue attention to your goings-on across the water at first, though we didn't like the way you took on about races and such. We don't ask if our neighbors are Aryans. We just ask if they're good neighbors. And when you started spreading all over Europe like a mess of tent caterpillars, well, Well, it looked for a while as if other folks could do the spraying. But Pearl Harbor and the way those Japanese beetles acted just touched us off. Now we're mad. We're mad, and we're out to get you, Adolf. Get you and your pals, every one of us. And when we say you and your pals, we mean just that. We mean this Mussolini that you got cooped up in Italy like a broody hen. That's a way for a man to act, isn't it? And those smart little sons of heaven that took their farms away from the Chinese. We don't like that sort of thing. We don't mean to stand it. And most of all, we'll be immortally damned if we have it here. Sorry, Mother, I just lost my temper a minute. Want to know what we're saying all over the country, us farmers? This is it. There's a woman up in New Hampshire, and she says,
I can't fire a gun, but bless you, I can keep firing this sausage out of here for the folks that need it to fight on.
There's a fellow over in Maryland. He's had hard luck, as you can tell. But he says,
the orchard's worthless. Peas suffered from drought. Potatoes suffered from drought. Sow has no pigs. 3 cows culled. Pipeline rusted and busted, but I'm keeping on. I read about how our soldiers need more food for us farmers, and they'll get it from me if I have to bust myself wide open.
There's an acre in the South, one of many acres in the South, and a sign on it says,
I hereby dedicate this acre of my cropland to James Walls, my soldier in the service of the United States.
There's a fellow who writes into the FSA, and he says,
I have a brother and brother-in-law already in service, and many close friends. Some of them have already been killed, and I'm willing to work for small profit so those boys will have everything they need and the best we can give them. I want to show these dirty backstabbers what a country of God-loving and free people can do, or the last one of us die trying.
And this is a lady down in Alabama. I know that kind of lady, and we got a lot of her. I'd like you to pay attention to this one, Adolf.
My husband's been ill, but I'll tell you what I and 2 girls did in 41. We made 100 bushels of corn and a ton of peanuts, 20 bushels of peas, 20 bushels of Irish potatoes, and 40 bushels of sweet potatoes. A good garden, 1 bale of cotton, raise about 200 chickens and have plenty of eggs. And 11 months ago, a friend gave us a little pig. I fed him with a spoon, and last December I butchered this pig. He weighed around 400 pounds. If I could get the hogs and where to fix a hog pasture, I could do more. Because this is the ladies' war, same as the men's. And I pledge myself in 42 I'll double the amount of 41. I will raise 2 hogs for the boys in service, 1 for myself. I have Pearl Harbor wrote down on my heart.
That's it, Adolf. That's our answer. The answer of our part of the home front. They won't be flying e-pennants from the silos, and we won't be getting medals or decorations. But we've got Pearl Harbor written down on our hearts. Pearl Harbor and Wake Island and the names of the dead. We'll work for them and fight the earth for them. We'll produce as we've never produced before. The government's asking for milk. 125 billion pounds of milk. 8 billion and a half more pounds than last year. They'll get it. How's the milk in Germany, Adolf? How much are your people getting? You promised them guns and butter. How many guns would they swap for some of our butter? How much milk are your soldiers getting on the Russian front? How much milk are their families getting, the families they left behind? Do you even know? All over America, we're raising the food for freedom. No, it isn't an easy job. I'll be frank about that. You see, we can afford to be frank. We don't have to lie to our own folks to get things done. We've got to work harder, every farmer, because with the army and the war industries, there'll be less and less help we can hire. We got to patch up the farm machinery and make it do, because it's more important right now to make bombs to drop on you than it is to make farm machinery. We'll get prices that may sound high, but we'll make less on the year. Feed's up and labor's up. There won't be $23 hogs in this war, but we won't be slave labor afterwards. We'll feel the pinch like the rest and go through like the rest. My hands are getting stiff, but I can still milk. My store suit's getting old, but I won't be needing it much. I take good care of my car, but I'd rather have freedom than new tires. Why are we doing it, Adolf? Well, that's something you wouldn't understand. We like freedom. Our government's not telling us to do this with machine guns. Our government's saying, can you do it? And we're saying 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. My boy wrote me from his camp this spring, and he said,
Of course, I am lonesome sometimes because I miss the folks and home on the farm in the hills. I know our soil's none too rich after use and misuse by many generations of farmers, and some of it is stony. But I know our hills are green now. I don't know why, but I love them most when the snow drifts deep under the hemlocks and shakes down from the trees when I walk through with my gun and my dog. No time's too long to fight to keep our home in the hills safe and free.
And I feel just the way my boy does. That's the way I feel about this country. It's too big for puny affairs and small potatoes. It's too big for grumbling and name-calling and holding back in the pinch. And it's too immortally big for you or folks like you to meddle with or put your brand on. We'll choke you with wheat and corn, Adolf. We'll drown you in York State milk. We'll smother you with cotton and soybeans and roll you up in the middle of a big Wisconsin cheese. The earth roused up against you, Adolf. The prairies and the plains, the black earth down in the delta, and the little hillside farms where you have to plow between the stones. There's 6 million farms against you, Adolf. 6 million farms, and they're farmers. The men with the slow talk and the sunburned back to their necks. The women who know that a farm woman's day never ends. And we're not a special class or a special interest. We're part of something and working for something that's bigger than any of us. Something big as the sky above us and fertile as the earth underfoot. It's called the United States, Adolf, and she was born in freedom. That right, Mother?
You have just heard Dear Adolf, starring Raymond Massey, the first of a series of 6 narrative letters written each week by Stephen Vincent Benet and presented by the National Broadcasting Company in cooperation with the Council for Democracy. The program was directed by Lester O'Keefe, with original music composed by Tom Bennett and conducted by Joseph Stopak. These broadcasts are based upon actual letters written to Hitler by Americans. Won't you send in your own letter to Dear Adolf? Listen next week to an American businessman's letter to Hitler, with Melvin Douglas as narrator. Copies of today's Dear Adolf letter from a farmer may be secured without cost by writing directly to the Council for Democracy, 11 West 42nd Street, New York City. This program came to you from New York. Dear Adolf, a letter to Hitler. National Broadcasting Company, in cooperation with the Council for Democracy, presents Dear Adolf, a series of 6 narrative letters written each week by Stephen Vincent Benet, one of the nation's greatest writers. These broadcasts are based upon actual letters written to Hitler by Americans. Today's program, the second of the series, presents Melvyn Douglas, distinguished actor of screen and radio, relating the views of an American businessman as he addresses a letter to Hitler.
Yeah, that's the afternoon mail, Miss Smith. All signed. Yes, I talked to Major Limpert. Going to meet him at the plant. Any other calls? Mrs. Benson did? Well, I can't get back for dinner. The Major and I will pick up something somewhere. You won't mind. Yes, Miss Smith, I had lunch. You can tell Mrs. Benson I had lunch. And don't look as if I never had it. That was just last week when we got the change specifications. No, I don't know when I'll be through. I may sleep at the plant. Take a letter, please, Miss Smith. Adolf Hitler. Berchtesgaden, Germany. Yeah, look up the spelling. I've had this letter on my mind for quite a while. Ever since the boy got into the Air Force. All right, take the letter. Dear Adolf, this is me. This is me, one American businessman, J.B. Benson of Benson and Company. I run one plant in one town in a place called the USA. I'm 49 years old, 3 children and a dog. Been in the manufacturing business ever since I got out of the last war. Believe in it, too. I'm a church member and a Rotarian and a lodge member. In politics, I usually vote the straight ticket, though once in a while I'll split it for a good man. Sometimes Miss Benson says that's stubborn on me. Sometimes she says I'm broad-minded. It all depends, I say. I'm vice president of the Chamber of Commerce in my town. I help run the community chest. And there are thousands like me all over this country. Just the plain, ordinary businessmen who sit at table 24 at the convention dinners and are out on the end of the row when they take the group photograph. That's why I'm taking time off to say, we're all against you, Adolf. The businessmen, the manufacturers, the industrialists, the men who designed and put together the whole big plant of America. We're moving against you. We're against you and we're out to lick you. Come hell or high water. It's a big job and we know that. But we're used to big jobs in this country. We make everything from electric toasters to suspension bridges. We make gadgets and do-funnies and jiggers and things that last. We're crazy about 3-ton presses and automatic lighters. About cash registers that ring bells at you and cranes that pick up tons of steel. We're crazy about feeding stuff in at one end of an assembly line and having a car drive out on its own power at the other. We're crazy about jigs and dies and tools that make tools. And that's why this war is up our alley, Adolf. Because it's mechanized war. You said it yourself. You started fooling around with the tools of death. Well, we're tool makers by trade. We've delivered a few samples already. Ask your friend, the son of heaven in Tokyo. But the real mass production's just starting on the way. It's in the plants and on the freight cars and trucks. It's crossing the oceans in convoy. It's pouring from thousands of factories all over America. The soldiers we send to fight you are going to be as well equipped as American skill can manage. There are type founders making tank guns, locomotive works making barbettes, tire companies making leak-proof gas tanks. It's boiling in the converters and humming over the power lines. It's being stamped out and welded and machined and finished and marked with your address. There are plants a mile long that do nothing night and day but work at it. There are little shops that do nothing night and day but work at it. There's a fellow who used to make musical cigarette boxes. He's making airplane parts. There's a fellow that used to make children's slippers. He's making canvas saddlebags for the Army. There's General Motors and Ford, Alice Chalmers and Bethlehem Steel, Gary and Hartford, Pittsburgh and Youngstown, the River Rouge and Willow Run. And there are hundreds of plants you never even heard of. They're pouring it out and heat treating it and shooting it right at you. Why? Well, there's just one reason why.
Our resources will beat the Axis. But if we don't hammer these resources into tools and planes and tanks in time, we might just as well be buried with these unused resources.
No, that wasn't our government, Adolf. That was a manufacturer in Louisville, Kentucky. Want to hear another? Well, this is the most respected man in my town, talking to our Chamber of Commerce.
Gentlemen, war business is not good business. It's hard to get, and it's harder to get a profit on it. It's as full of troubles as Pandora's box. But I'm taking all I can get, because if American business does not make a success of this job, it will never get the chance to fail at another.
That's one of our own men, talking horse sense. We've heard what you did to your business, men. And the only business that's running in Germany today is your gang's business, Adolf. Well, that isn't the way we want it here. Sure, some of us thought for a while that we could do business with you, even if you conquered all Europe. But we don't think that anymore. You can't do business with a man who doesn't know the meaning of a contract. You can't do business with a company who takes your goods in on a cash basis and then pays off in bum harmonicas. You can't do business with people whose whole idea of business is tails I win, heads you lose. We call those people chiselers in this country, Adolf. And when they get to be too much of a nuisance, we put them out of business. And that's just what we mean to do to you. You and your friends, the Japanese warlords. Because you're international chiselers. And there can't be any real business done until you're stopped. Sure, we kick about a lot of things here. We kick about taxes and we kick about red tape. We kick about rules and regulations. We kick about government interference. We kick about questionnaires and we kick about the New Deal. We can kick. We're free men. Your fellows can't kick. Well, they'd be shot. It's curious, Adolf. Not one American businessman has yet been shot by our government because he didn't agree with our government's policies. That must be curious to you. But we mean to keep it that way. And as for our business objective, here's what one plant manager says.
After an 80% excess profit tax and higher inventories, there won't be much gravy left for the stockholders. But that old whistle out there will still be calling men to work after this war is over. And that's more than some of Schicklgruber's whistles are doing right now.
That's our objective, Adolf. No, I'm not painting a rosy picture. Things are tough. They're going to be tougher. Industries that can't convert will suffer badly. Many businesses will suffer badly. We'll all be regulated as we've never been regulated before. Some chiselers may make undue profits, and we'll all see many changes. But we built the big plant, and we mean to keep it working. For the USA, not for you. To work and to plan and to do something. To try new things and get them done. To get the cost down and the volume up so the ordinary man can have things that only the few could enjoy a little while ago. To make some kind of a profit out of brains and skill and management. And to get the world's business straightened out so that people like you won't keep gumming it up. That's our hope for what it is. Nowadays, we don't even try to put that hope into words. We just keep on driving. Because always at the back of our minds we hear...
Our resources. But if we don't hammer these resources into tools and planes and tanks in time, We might just as well be buried with our unused resources.
If American business does not make a success of this job, it will never get the chance to fail at another.
That's what the clock keeps ticking, Adolf. Yes, there are those who try to divide and disunite us. Set class against class, creed against creed, race against race, management against labor, business against government. But that's your game, Adolf. And we're getting on pretty fast to the very few in this country who like to play your game. No. A lot of us businessmen may not die in battle. We'll die of coronary and Bright's and the overwork diseases. Maybe a few years earlier than if you'd never been born. Well, that's all right. You send a plane over tomorrow and lay a bomb on this plant and bury me under it. Well, it was J.B. Benson's plant. And he lived and died J.B. Benson, a free American. He wasn't Henry Ford, but he did all right in his line. He kicked at his government, and he never broke 90 on the golf course. They liked him pretty well in his town, and he paid his bills on the first. And when he figured he owed the United States a debt for value received, he paid it. He paid it by scratching around and getting things done that couldn't be done in less time than there was to do them. And if there's a balance due, and there probably is, his son and his partners and his company will take over the rest of the debt and see it's paid in full. They won't slacken and they won't tire. They won't rest and they won't fight about objectives. They'll keep the wheels humming and the draft boards busy and the plant turning out the stuff till the iron-jawed Axis boys who thought J.B. Benson was a sucker and a softy yell uncle. But J.B. Benson worked for money, and he made plenty of mistakes. But when the pinch came, the school book says he would not bow to tyrants. He got up on his hind feet instead and said, "Let's go." He was a past Grand Master in the assorted princes of the desert. He wore +4s when they were fashionable. Looked like hell in them. He was proud of his children and his electric razor. He liked to broil steaks on a special outdoor grill. And he made a special sauce for them that gave Mrs. Benson the willies. He'd tell you at the drop of a hat about the speech he made at the convention. But he would not bow to tyrants. And he worked his head off to lick them. And that's all you need to know about J.B. Benson. Except that living or dead, he doesn't intend to be licked. That's all, Miss Smith. Yes, use the company letterhead. Huh? Copy to Mussolini? No, I don't think we need to waste the paper. But send one to Hirohito. And mark them both special delivery. By bomber. I better get over at the plant.
You have just heard Dear Adolf, starring Melvin Douglas, the second of a series of 6 narrative letters written each week by Stephen Vincent Benet and presented by the National Broadcasting Company in cooperation with the Council for Democracy. The program was directed by Lester O'Keefe, with original music composed by Tom Bennett and conducted by Joseph Stopak. These broadcasts are based upon actual letters written to Hitler by Americans. Won't you send in your own letter to Dear Adolf? Listen next week to an American working man's letter to Hitler with James Cagney as narrator. Copies of today's Dear Adolf letter from a businessman may be secured without cost by writing directly to the Council for Democracy, 11 West 42nd Street, New York City. This program came to you from New York. This is the National Broadcasting Company.
Dear Adolf, a letter to Hitler. The National Broadcasting Company, in cooperation with the Council for Democracy, presents Dear Adolf, a series of 6 narrative letters written each week by Stephen Vincent Benet, one of the nation's greatest writers. These broadcasts are based upon actual letters written to Hitler by Americans. Today's program, the third of the series, presents James Cagney, distinguished actor of screen and radio, relating the views of an American laborer as he addresses a letter to Hitler.
Dear Adolf. Dear Adolf. Dear Adolf.
Shift number 3, welding. Shift number 3.
Dear Adolf, we're writing you a letter, and it isn't in fancy words. It's written around the clock by the working stiffs of America, the guys with grease on their faces who know what work means. It's written in steel and plastics, carborundum and tungsten, rivet buckets and drill templates, planes and guns. How about it, you guys at law stores?
Okay. Send it on to Adolf.
How about it, sheet metal?
Don't waste our time. We're busy. Send it on to Adolf.
How about it, production, inspection, engineering?
On to Adolf.
Experimental, mental bench, finishing and plating.
Got no time to gab. We're busy. Send it on to Adolf.
How's it coming, final assembly?
Can't you read the chart, you donkey? The figures keep climbing, don't they? Send them on to Adolf.
The old ship going off and the new ship coming on. And 8 hours from now, that ship will go off and another one comes on. And 8 hours from then, same business. Because this is an American war plant, and it's making war.
But that is impossible, my good man. You cannot make war. Your workers only work 40 hours a week. I have read it in your paper.
Listen, Sap, don't give me that baloney. Sure, we got a 40-hour week, base pay. And wouldn't your sweated workers like to have one? But how much did you work last week in your plant, Jimmy?
52.
How about you, Shorty?
48.
Mike?
I don't know how long I worked this week till I got the paycheck. Maybe 56 or 60. I know I work overtime because we got to rush the job, and she's got to get rushed.
48, 52, 60. Well, why are you doing it?
Got kids, raising them.
I get paid for the overtime, don't I? So what?
The old woman, she telling me she want to fix them up the house. She say, Mike, get her to let out of your pension or work on the rush job. The house, she need to be fixed.
Just what I suspected. Just what I've always said. Apathy, selfishness, greed. Eyes that never look me for under paycheck. Labor asleep at the switch. Oh, dear. Don't you realize that while you get paid for overtime, our brave American boys are fighting and dying?
You needn't tell us. We know. We got brothers in the Army and Navy. We got sons and nephews and guys that work at the same bench with us. We aren't spilling off about them, but we aren't forgetting them. We don't like the bunk and the oil and the big words. We don't like star-spangled orations that don't add up. But we know what we're doing, and we know what they're doing. Every time we throw a switch or pull a lever, every time we set up a new job, every time the whistle blows for the new shift, we know what we're doing. Over 20 million of us. And don't you be fooled about that. Say, did you ever sleep in what they call a hotbed, mister? A bed that never gets changed because as soon as you get out of it, the guy from shift 3 gets in? Did you ever work in an asbestos suit in front of the hot steel? Did you ever work on high iron? Did you ever climb the poles? Did you ever go down the mine shaft in the cage and wonder now and then about the guys last week who never came up from shaft 6? Did you ever see a man's hand chewed into red pulp just because he slipped up for a split second? Then don't talk to us, mister. We aren't softies and we aren't pampered. We're working stiffs and we're tough. That's where you made your mistake about us, Adolf. You thought we weren't tough. You thought dough was all we were after. And you thought we couldn't think. Well, we're thinking now, and we're thinking about this war. We aren't thinking about it in slogans, axe the axes and set the rising sun. I guess they're all right, as advertising. But
we're thinking about it like this.
I'm a mechanic. Live in Seattle. Guess I wasn't so sold on this war at first. No, not even on the need for victory. Then I heard a broadcast. Listened to the names and trades of 20 Norwegians shot by the Nazis because they tried to escape to England. One of those men was a mechanic. Every time somebody grumbles about the war, I think of that mechanic in Norway. I think about him and me.
Got that one? Okay. Now stick this one in. It's from an airplane plant.
I have 2 sons who are in the American Army. I don't want to see them fail for lack of equipment. And here's where we're turning out the stuff. Every time I complete my particular work on an airplane assembly, I speed it on the way to my sons.
And here's something just a little different. He isn't a skilled worker. He's nobody you ever heard of. He's just a rag peddler. Yes, I said rag peddler. But over here, Adolf, even rag peddlers can have the ideas of their own. And he says,
I am an old man and an individualist. I was born in Germany. My trades are many, but now rag peddling is my only desire. In the dark streets and alleys, I see plenty rags of human mind. And once, in my bundle of rags, I find your book, Mein Kampf. I read it because I want to know what it's about. After I finish that book of hate and nonsense, something happens inside of me. I have a strange desire to live till the biggest rag collecting job in the world is done. And I know it will be done. We will take your rags on par value, Mr. Hitler. The world will see you naked. The medals and uniforms of your Hermann Goering. The ropes of your Heinrich Himmler. And all the rags you accumulated will be collected. The rags of fear, the sufferings of your tortured Europe, will go with the swastika on the big rag pile. Adolf, your time is come. I want your rags. I am old, and I know when things are good and when they are rotten.
And now, back to another war plant and another workman.
I've been buying war bonds with every spare dollar. I've been working on my war job with every ounce of strength. And let me tell you this, Hitler won't win while the boys in Plant 4 keep working.
Got it, Adolf? That's us. More than 20 million workers, 11 million union members all over the USA. Yes, I'm talking about unions. I'm talking about CIO and AFL. I'm talking about every union man in this country. Because we know what you do to unions, Adolf. You don't fight them and you don't debate with them. You wipe them out, hide and hair. Over here, a union button's a union button. In Germany, it means your controlled labor front. In Japan, it never existed. In Italy, well, can you imagine a Mussel union? There's just one thing about unions you've taught us, Adolf. They can grow only in a democracy. They can grow only on free soil. They can't grow inside your new order. This is what happens to them in your Germany.
Calling local B241, Berlin. Calling local B241, Berlin.
No answer! There's no answer! No answer from any local! No answer! Address unknown!
All patriotic workers are now members of the Labor Front. All unions are now part of the Labor Front. There are no other workers. No other unions.
Hans was secretary of the local. Have you heard what happened to Hans?
Concentration camp. Term indefinite.
Otto. He was treasurer. Otto.
Otto died.
Gustav was on the shop committee. Gustav.
Forced labor in Poland. Typhus.
That's the way it is in your country, Adolf, and in the countries you've conquered. That's the way it isn't going to be here. 11 million union men are against you, Adolf. Day shift or night shift or middle shift. They're against you, and they're going to get you. And that doesn't go just for the unions. It goes for all labor. Let me tell you just one little story, Adolf. When Chrysler built its first tank plant. You don't get balmy weather in Michigan in the winter. But the guys on the job gave up holidays and weekends to stand in slush knee-deep, pouring 51,000 tons of concrete. It snowed and they blew on their fingers and put up 6,500 tons of steel in 70 days. And that was a year before Pearl Harbor. Well, what do you suppose those guys are doing now? Picking buttercups? They did it for overtime pay? Well, let's see your labor front match it. And confidentially, Adolf, it wasn't all for the overtime.
Distressing, racketeers, labor czars, corruption, intimidation. Horrible, awful, distressing, scandalous.
Yeah, we hear you, too. We hear the voices that make for division. We hear the voices of those who would set class against class, whites against Negroes, Christians against Jews. And we know they're playing Adolf's game, and we're on to them. We hear the voices of those, not many but a few, who would rather beat labor than Hitler, rather muscle in on labor than save the United States. And our answer to them and you is... Yes, that's coarse. It isn't refined. I guess we're not very refined when we get mad, Adolf. And we're getting madder every day. The worse you make it, the madder we'll get. We know about the guys in those tankers that you've been sinking. They were working guys like us. We know about the guys who died on Bataan. A lot of them used to be working guys like us. There's a cap floating out on the Atlantic with a Union button on it. There's a kid who was a smart mechanic, but he won't come back for his toolkit since the Japanese sniper got him. Well, they were us, and we're them. There's no cockeyed labor front in this country. There's no Gestapo pushing us around. We've adjourned the big strikes for the duration. We're doing that freely. We're giving up extras and working overtime. We're doing that freely. We're back of the president and back of the government. And we're sending you a letter 20 million workers long. It's written in steel and flame, in the planes that fly the oceans and the bombs that drop from the planes, in the ships that slide down the ways and the plants that work night and day, day and night. It's written in brains and muscles and skilled hands moving fast on the assembly line, in war bonds and war stamps and the sweat and grind of the shift. It's written in plain American, and it's signed, yours to blow you sky high, American labor. How about it, assembly line? Sending it on to radar.
The time's short.
How about it, production, maintenance, second bench, center wings?
Sending it on to radar.
The time's passing.
How about it, 20 million workmen?
Sending it on to radar. Sending it on.
You have just heard Dear Adolf, starring James Cagney, the third of a series of 6 narrative letters written each week by Stephen Vincent Benet, presented by the National Broadcasting Company in cooperation with the Council for Democracy. The program was directed by Lester O'Keefe, with original music composed by Tom Bennett, conducted by Joseph Stopak. These broadcasts are based upon actual letters written to Hitler by Americans. Won't you send in your own letter to Dear Adolf? Listen next week to an American housewife and mother's letter to Hitler with Helen Hayes as narrator. Copies of today's Dear Adolf, Letter from a Laborer, may be secured without cost by writing directly to the Council for Democracy, 11 West 42nd Street, New York City. This program has come to you from New York. This is the National Broadcasting Company.
Dear Adolf, a letter to Hitler. The National Broadcasting Company, in cooperation with the Council for Democracy, presents Dear Adolf, a series of 6 narrative letters written each week by Stephen Vincent Benet, one of the nation's greatest writers. These broadcasts are based upon actual letters written to Hitler by Americans. Today's program, the 4th of the series, presents Helen Hayes, distinguished actress of stage, screen, and radio, relating the views of an American housewife and mother
as she addresses a letter to Hitler.
It hasn't come to us yet. The bomb by night, the machine gun bullet by day, the shattered house, the dead child held in the arms for so brief a space. The other child not found at all, never found at all, in spite of the rescue squads and all the cars and the people who tried to find him. No, not yet. I am writing you a letter, Adolf Hitler. And I'm not saying, dear Adolf, being a woman, I can't say that. Not even in scorn or jest. For you are the enemy of all I know, of all I feel with my body, know with my mind, the enemy of all women everywhere. And so I can't say, dear Adolf. Maybe men can say that. But I have my own things to say. I am young and old, middle-aged, with my children grown, with my children still in my care. I live in a town, a city, a suburb, a pleasant, tree-shaded street, a bare street, hard with traffic, ugly with noise. And the bomb has not reached me yet. I go up and down on my day's small business that never begins or stops, because a family never begins or stops. It keeps on being a family every day. The leftover steak and the socks and the school reports. The child with the temperature and the watch at night. The new kind of salad where Tom will say, "What's this?" But I'll give him waffles, too, so he won't mind. Yes, that's it. That's me. The millions of us all over America who tell the census clerk, occupation, housewife. And we buy the food for the nation and guard its children. We keep the house and see that Mister gets fed. And because of those things, we hate you, Adolf Hitler. You are our enemy for life and death. I do not say it is just or right to hate. I say we hate you for having caused this hate. And hate and love are lasting things for a woman. The selfish and pampered women of America, according to your book, say this to you.
Twice in my lifetime. My husband had to go to war in 1917. Now, thanks to you, he must go again. And this time, my sons, too, must go. Twice in my life, you and people like you have put all I hold dear in danger. I know the price you are making me pay. Our way of life is worth it. But if you know anything about mothers, you will know that I and all other American mothers will see to it that none of us ever pay it again.
That is what your women say. Well, that's all very fine. But what do they do?
Air raid warden, post 7, on duty. All quiet tonight.
All quiet tonight. But there are thousands like her, and day or night they're on duty. There are others on other duty, women with children.
Gee, what do you know? Mom signed up to be an airplane spotter. Say, when Mom's up in the tower, we'd better all run for the shelters.
Yes, that's what he said at first. But I have good eyes, and after I'd been in the tower for a couple of nights, I discovered he was rather proud of me.
Just a housewife, 47, in California. But she has good eyes. And here.
I am now going to demonstrate the triangular bandage for serious head injuries. Please look at the board. When you pass your training and start working in the hospital, your duties will be necessary rather than glamorous. You will be expected to relieve the regular nurses of a certain amount of detail and routine work, which will in the
First aid, nurse's aid. And we've all seen the cartoons and the jokes about traction splints. Because here, somehow, we can make fun of ourselves and yet keep on with the job and get it done. And then, of course, for all of us, there's this.
And if we were really bummed, I'm to take care of Ellie, aren't I, Mother? Because she's pretty little.
Yes, dear.
And you'll be with us if you're here. Now remember about the sand in the pails. But if it's in school or anything, I'm not going to be afraid. And I'm not going to cause any unnecessary disturbance. And neither must Ellie.
No, dear. But Ellie understands.
And remember about lying flat, Ellie, if it comes very near.
That's why we hate you. That's why we can't rest or have peace till you're blacked out. Till you and all who are like you are blacked out from the world we wish to have born. You have stretched your hands at our children, and there is blood on your hands. The last war was bad, and yet it was far away for us, for most here, for the lucky. This is near and near and near. It walks into our houses every day, in Black House, in the sharp, clear voices over the radio, in the going away of men. This is our war, not only our men's. And we mean to fight it, as you shall see, Adolf Hitler. From Plymouth Rock, our women went with the men, and not as toys or chattels. They worked and shared. They knew who took the brunt of the pioneering. The women who bore their children on clipper ships. The women who kept the half-faced camps in the cold. And they were free women, and their strain is in us and shall go on.
Free women, what of me? What of my millions and my ancient wrong? What of my people bowed in darkness still?
Dark sister, your wrong is old and true and grievous and heavy on the heart. And yet, Sojourner Truth could rise and speak, a woman and a slave, speak and be heard even in the darkest days.
They're still dark for many of my people. I love my land as well as any of you. I know that those we war against today despise my people and would drive them back to the old slavery of whips and chains, the lash upon the back, the ancient wrong. And yet even today we find no place, even in war, for much that we could do and would do for our country.
That is true. And yet there is a change. It comes, how slowly, but it comes at last. It comes by inches, yet the ground is won. And only on free soil, for only there can there be growth and change. Can there be men and women who stand up for others' rights, not only for their own, who will spend days, years, lives in striking at some ancient wrong, some old entrenched injustice till it falls. Sojourner Truth and Susan Anthony, Jane Addams, Harriet Tubman, Clara Barton, women who fought for women and for men, for all the people, for the common people, and each a handful of American dust. Those are our women.
Yes, that is just the trouble with your corrupt democratic state. Your women mix into all sorts of things that are none of their business. We have put our women in their proper place. Bed, cooking, work, children, bed. They don't have to bother their heads about anything else. They are very happy.
Are you so sure?
We have the records. This is our kind of woman.
I am bearing my child for the Führer. I am happy beyond words to bear my child for the Führer. When he grows to manhood, he will be a soldier for the Führer. I will be his mother and see him die for the Führer. That is the highest duty, to bear children who can fight for the Führer, kill for the Führer, die for the Führer.
They will not let me put my son's death notice in the papers. They say there are too many death notices in the papers. It makes a bad impression.
Read for the Führer.
My son got the Iron Cross. They have sent it back to me in a box. They have not sent back my son.
Killed for the Führer.
There has been another great victory, they tell me. Another great victory. But there is no bread in my house. There are no children in my house.
Die for the Führer.
Sieg Heil! Sieg Heil! Sieg Heil!
Yes, that's it. That's what you've done. That's what you've done to the women of Germany. That's what you've done to their children. That's what you would do to ours. To the flesh of our flesh, the bodies of our bodies. Young, looking up with big eyes. That is your war. That is your kind of war. The war against the children. The war against the children of your foes with bombs and treachery and slow starvation. The war against the children of your land to make them shouting slaves of a machine. And that is why we hate you, Adolf Hitler. And ask for sacrifice and pray for courage, and we'll give up whatever must be given. The pleasant days, the easy luxuries, just so your hands will not destroy our children. Just so your hate will not destroy their hearts. Oh, yes, we hear the small dividing voices, the petty voices nagging in our ears, playing your game.
Oh, well, my dear, of course it all sounds very nice. United Nations. But if you think Britain and Russia won't let us down the minute they get a chance to...
A pint of milk a day for every child in the world. Ha! Say, that's the silliest idea I ever heard of. Suppose they'll want to give it to the Eskimos, too.
Yes, those are voices playing your old game. Class against class, ally against ally, race against race, smugness against the dream. A pint of milk a day for every child? That's a big order. But it isn't silly. It isn't silly to women. We happen to know children and know milk. We're practical about real things like those. We're practical in wanting not just peace, but peace that will mean something. We're practical in wanting a new world where every kind of child has room to grow. And this time, statesmen, premiers, diplomats, men of goodwill and men of less goodwill, our voices shall be heard at the peace table. The voices of the free women of the world, loud in your ears, persistent as the sea. No peace unless it is a peace of justice. No peace that does not set the children free.
You have just heard Dear Adolf, starring Helen Hayes, the fourth of a series of 6 narrative letters written each week by Stephen Vincent Benet, presented by the National Broadcasting Company in cooperation with the Council for Democracy. This program will not be heard next Sunday due to the performance at that time of the new Shostakovich Symphony by the NBC Symphony Orchestra under the baton of Arturo Toscanini. However, be sure to listen at the same time on Sunday, July 26th, to An American Soldier's Letter to Hitler with Jeffrey Lynn as narrator. Copies of today's Dear Adolf letter relating the views of an American housewife and mother may be secured without cost by writing directly to the Council for Democracy, 11 West 42nd Street, New York City. This is the National Broadcasting Company.
Dear Adolf, a letter to Hitler. The National Broadcasting Company, in cooperation with the Council for Democracy, presents Dear Adolf, a series of 6 narrative letters written each week by Stephen Vincent Benet, one of the nation's greatest writers. These broadcasts are based upon actual letters written to Hitler by Americans. Today's program, the 5th of the series, presents the well-known screen actor William Holden, who is now a private in the United States Army Signal Corps at the Photographic Center, Astoria, Long Island. Private Holden will relate the views of an American soldier as he addresses a letter to Hitler.
Dear Adolf, this is me, one American soldier. My dog tag number's in the millions. My draft number came out of the hat in every state in the Union. I'm from Janesville and Little Rock, Monroe City and Nashua. I'm from Blue Eye, Missouri and the sidewalks of New York. I'm from the Green Mountains and the big sky-hooting plains, from the roll of the prairie and the rocks of Marblehead, from the little towns where a dog can go to sleep in the middle of Main Street, and the nickel-plated suburbs and the cities that stick their skyscrapers into the sky. I used to be a carpenter and a school teacher, a soda jerker and a mechanic. I used to be a hacky and a farmhand, a leg man and a bookkeeper, the son of a guy with money and the son of a guy with none. But I'm a soldier now. 4.5 million of us by the end of this year. Listen to the roll call.
Adamowski, Adams, Anderson, Bailey, Bertillo, Brown.
That's my outfit. That's us. The biggest and best trained army ever raised on American soil. Ski troops and parachute troops, motorized and mechanized. Tank troops and tank destroyers. Cooks and cryptographers, bakers and bombardiers.
Cohen, Costello, Dougherty, DeRoss, DuPont.
From Alaska to Australia, from Australia to Ulster, in the cold skies and the hot, under desert suns and fierce skies and jungle rains. That's us, the United States Army. And we're not writing letters, Adolf. We're on the job. We weren't picked out for our looks or Nordic names. We weren't picked out to heil heels or chew up small countries that never did us any harm. We weren't picked out to sit around on our parking spaces and wait for you to be nasty. Let me tell you a few things about us, about the kind of army we are. They won't make you happy. When my bunch first went in, we had a drill corporal from upstate Georgia. He didn't read the papers much. He'd rather go to town and pick a scrap with the MPs. But he drilled us well. Hut, hip, hip, warp. And every day he kept saying...
Now, you boys damn well better pay attention here. This business is for keeps.
That was March 1941. But he knew what was coming, and we listened. But, well, most of us had left good jobs, and that seemed pretty important. We had a bunch of Italians, and they missed their spaghetti and conversation. We had a bunch of Maine lads, and they sweated under the Georgia sun and thought about the lakes beginning to melt back in Maine. We had some Poles. They knew the score. Their folks had heard from Warsaw. But they didn't argue much. They just kept humping. Yes, it was all pretty new. But when most of my company, at the end of 13 weeks, marched off to join a new division, well, some of them were bawling like kids. Because somehow, without lectures and orders and editorials, there had gelled a sense of comradeship that would make your well-advertised Gemeinschaftgeist look sick. And then we trained some more and waited for the answer you gave us that Sunday, you and your Axis pals. It's about time, one soldier said.
Dalton, Davis, Dombrowski, Edelson, Edward, Parra.
Like to hear from some of them? Here's one from Ohio. Used to drive a bus. Now he's mechanized infantry.
In the part of Ohio I come from, lots of people have religious convictions against war. Well, I keep these prayers at the back of my mind every day and believe these prayers. I pray for peace. But I'm not so much like those people in Ohio as I used to be. My convictions are that war is evil, and that the evil men are those who started it. When you ask me what I have personally to be angry against the Nazis and the Japs, that is my answer. They have hurt me and my people by making us fight a war that in our religion is bad. I don't know if I've made myself clear, but Hitler is my personal enemy, and I aim to stop him.
And prayers don't make a soldier, Adolf? Not by your book? Well, ask about Lee's army, the Army of Northern Virginia. They prayed when they felt like it. Here's another from a Marine, just back from Atlantic Patrol, and sore. Sore because he's been made an instructor and isn't with his outfit.
All I want to be is where I belong, in a mortar platoon of the Marines. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to wave the flag or become Joe Hero. But surely patriotism is something more than knowing the words of the Star-Spangled Banner. I'll admit that 10 years hence, nobody will give a hoot about what the boys in uniform did today. Those who die in action will be hardly a memory. Those who come back maimed will be an expense, a bore, and a nuisance. I've seen death many times recently and dodged it on several occasions. And if I get killed, oh, what the hell? Nobody ever left this world alive, and very few of us get to die for a cause. If I do get through, I will have had the satisfaction of knowing that I did try to do a man's job.
And here's a letter from Baton, February 12th, 1942.
Dear Mother and Dad, and Francis, this letter may never be delivered. It will go to Corregidor and there await transportation. I am proud to be part of the fight that's being made here. Bataan may fall, but the eventual outcome of the war is foreordained. I've seen some horrible things happen and had my share of narrow escapes. But I've also seen some very wonderful acts of courage, self-sacrifice, and loyalty. At last I have found what I've searched for all my life, a cause and a job in which I can lose myself completely. Life and my family have been very good to me and given me everything I've really wanted. Should anything happen to me here, it will not be like closing a book in the middle. In the last 2 months, I have done a lifetime of living and been part of one of the most unselfish cooperative efforts that's ever been made. Mistakes may have been made, but that has nothing to do with the manner in which my comrades on Bataan, both Filipino and American, have reacted to their trial of fire. If that same selfless spirit were devoted to the world's betterment in time of peace, what a good world we would have. And how dull, I can hear the younger generation muttering. This letter is written to send you all my love and thanks for just being my family. It is written with no so-called premonitions. My chances are pretty good, so I'll send it on its way. Keep 'em flying west. Your loving son and brother.
No, we haven't heard from that lieutenant. Not since Corregidor fell. But we'll keep 'em flying. We're not talking about being Joe Hero. There's a long, dirty, bloody job ahead of us, and we know that. Wars mean filth and thirst and pain and the scream of dive bombers on top of you and going on to the end of your endurance and beyond. Wars mean seeing your best friend killed beside you, and it's only afterwards you have time to think about him, because the line must be held. All right, mister. You started it rolling. We know the score. We're the guys who take cars apart and put them together, just for fun. We're the guys who fiddle with radio sets and are crazy about the comics, Batman and Terry and the Pirates and Donald Duck, and all kinds of people who do things they aren't supposed to do. The Army wasn't supposed to get away with bombing Tokyo, but they did it. The Navy wasn't supposed to sink 4 Jap air carriers in the Battle of Midway, but they did it. We don't build armies just to put guys in uniform and shove civilians around. We build them to fight and win battles. We build them just the same way we built the Boulder Dam, and out of the same kind of stuff. And in back of us, all the time, there's a roll call and a knowledge.
Follett, Fraser, Garrett, Hamilton, Herkimer.
That's the muster roll of the revolution, Adolf. The muster roll of free men who fought for their country because she had to be born. And they got worse chow than ours, and they got paid off in paper. And if they were living afterwards, they went back to their farms and hoed corn. But they knew what they'd done, and they were satisfied.
Izzard, Jones, Jacobson, Jackson, Kearney, Lee Fitzhugh, Lee, R.E.
That's the roll call of the Civil War, Adolf. And out of it the Union lived, and a free thing went ahead. It cost blood and toil and long bitterness, but it made us one nation.
Levinsky, Leibowitz, Liggett, MacArthur, McCook, Maganetti.
And that's the last war, Adolf. The Rainbow Division and the First Division and all the divisions. The 2 million who went to France. And we came in late and had to borrow other folks' equipment because ours wasn't ready. But the records written from Cantini to the Argonne. This time we'll have the equipment. Our factories are turning it out. And this time we aren't going to stop with just saving democracy and then running out on it. This time we're after a durable peace. And that isn't your kind.
Nathan, Nininger, O'Brien, O'Hare, Orlando.
That's a few of the new names, Adolf. No, the roll isn't finished. It won't be finished until you are.
Papagos, Patterson, Prakash, Pryor, Quintanilla, Quesado, Hugh Lung.
Chinese, Italian, Greek, Bohemian, British, Mexican. The sons of men who fought 6 wars and won them. The sons of men who came here to get away from wars. We don't like being ordered around, though we'll take it and like it in wartime. We think that one man's just as good as the next, and maybe better. If we feel like going to church, we'll go to the church we pick out, and the next guy can go to his. If we want to get married, we'll marry the girl we like, and the guy who makes a crack about her ancestry had better look out for his teeth. If we don't like the people who run our government, we'll change them by peaceable election. That's us. That's our platform. And behind us are 130 million Americans.
Rakonski, Rattray, Rourke, Saltonstall, Sekapanowitz.
All the funny names there are. Yes, Adolf, the old names and the new. The names that made America from Jamestown to the Cherokee Strip and back and forth and across and up and down. Only this time the building will be bigger than anything we've ever tried. This time the roll call will not end with the armistice.
Camacho, Chiang Kai-shek, Churchill, Cripps, Curtin, de Gaulle, Litvinov, Kazan, Roosevelt, Stalin, Van Mock, Wallace, Wilkie.
Yes, this time it's for a new world, but not for yet. Now it's the march in the mud and the heat on the steel box of the tank and the stutter of a tail gun from a bombing plane. And yet...
the command is forward.
Now it's fever and wounds and the stink of the slit trench. And yet...
the command is forward.
The command is forward. March! Vanilla or chocolate? Well, make it a double one with maraschino. You'll need it before we're through.
You have just heard Dear Adolf, starring Private William Holden, the 5th of a series of 6 narrative letters written each week by Stephen Vincent Benet and presented by the National Broadcasting Company in cooperation with the Council for Democracy. The program was directed by William Sweets with original music composed by Tom Bennett and conducted by Joseph Stopak. These broadcasts are based upon actual letters written to Hitler by Americans. Won't you send in your own letter to Dear Adolf? Listen next week to a foreign-born American's letter to Hitler with Joseph Schildkraut as narrator. Copies of today's Dear Adolf letter from an American soldier may be secured without cost by writing directly to the Council for Democracy, 11 West 42nd Street, New York City. This program came to you from New York. This is the National Broadcasting Company. Dear Adolf, a letter to Hitler. The National Broadcasting Company, in cooperation with the Council for Democracy, presents Dear Adolf, a series of 6 narrative letters written each week by Stephen Vincent Benet, one of the nation's greatest writers. These broadcasts are based upon actual letters written to Hitler by Americans. Today's program, the 6th of the series, presents the distinguished star Joseph Schildkraut, who will relate the views of a foreign-born American as he addresses a letter to Hitler.
Dear Adolf, Reichschancellor, Reichsleader, Reichsdestroyer, You know my voice. It is the voice of the peoples you have crushed and starved and shot. The voice of the peoples of Europe, held down but unsubdued. The voice of suffering peoples tricked into war on your side by their rotten and stupid rulers. The voice of suffering peoples beaten down by your armies, but waiting in terrible patience for the dawn and the liberation and the end of you, Adolf Hitler. It is underground, that voice, in Europe. It burrows like a mole underground. It whispers like the night wind through the air. It doesn't speak loudly yet. But when it speaks, your hangman dies. But my voice comes from America, not from Europe. I speak to you. I speak to my fellow Americans. I speak for the alien-born. I speak for many stocks and many mother tongues. I speak for old famous cities and peasant villages, for the lands where custom is old, where the fields have been tilled for many generations, the lands of our mothers' milk and our fathers' endeavor. And I speak for the men and women who left these behind to come here. We came here to this country as children. Why, we came here only a few short years ago. We came with no English at all, with a few words picked up somehow, with the painful scholarly phrases you learn in books, and the scraps of old-fashioned slang we were so proud of knowing. We came in different clothes, different haircuts, homesick, excited, weary, looking forward, wondering if it was true, if it could be true, if America was what they said, if we would be welcomed or hated, given a place or despised. For roots are hard to tear up, Adolf, even for bread or freedom. The heart looks back for a while, even when the body has crossed an ocean. Was it true what they said, that this was a land where your stock or your birthplace or your name didn't matter beside what you were and what you could do? Was it true we'd have rights like the rest and a chance like the rest? Was it true that we could be Americans? Hear my friend from the Lebanon.
In my village in the Lebanon, when I was a boy, when the governor's carriage passed down the street, everyone jumped up and saluted. If you didn't salute, well, then you were due for trouble. Ours was a subject country, and when our village elders found themselves oppressed, they would raise helpless hand and say, "Oh, it's your governor and your God." And there was no appeal from God or the governor. So when I came here at 20 with others of my compatriots, we knew little of many things. There would doubtless be governors here, just like our governors. So a man examined my papers at the port of Boston, and I stood before him, shaking in my boots. He was an official, a governor. But when he had finished with my papers, he got up and shook me by the hand. He wished me good luck in my new country. I have never forgotten that. I will never forget that. What did we find here? We found that neither race, nor birth, nor faith stood in the way of our advancement. We found a land that taught us the meaning of liberty and made of us free men. Now, we have no other hope and no other cause.
Hear my friend who was born in Hungary.
America is my country, and America is the home of my children. Will be the home of their children. My eldest daughter is in love with an Irish fellow, and she told me she dreams about him in English. This surely is my country when my daughter loves an Irish fellow and dreams about him in English and speaks to me about him in Hungarian. I know how to read, but my wife never learned how. But we both know we don't have to lick the boots of our bosses. And when my daughter's fellow, he's in the army, when he writes her a letter, it makes us all happy. What else can I tell you? I'm a citizen. I can vote. I never could do that in the old country. And I go to church. And there are no spies looking at me. And I can speak to God. And I don't have to mind Hitler. America must win. She will win.
Here, my friend from Germany, Adolf, the Germany you slew.
I fight you because you taught me the full meaning of a verse by the poet Schiller. Es kann der Frömmste nicht in Frieden leben, wenn es dem bösen Nachbarn nicht gefällt. A saint cannot live in peace if his wicked neighbor does not like it. I was a pacifist once, an intellectual, a thinker. You drove me out of Germany. I took refuge in France. For the first time there, I began to know what freedom is. Then you invaded France. I took part in that terrible retreat. I know what you did there. I do not want to talk about that. But I know what you did. In the end, by great good luck, I was rescued and came to the USA. And there I saw what amazed me. An organized democracy, defending its freedom. Hitler, you will never understand what America means to us. You may boast of your ability in keeping the appearance that everything is well in Germany. This society here would break down the moment when everybody should say everything is well. It gets things done by criticism and discussion, by 130 million people criticizing, discussing, and cooperating. And that is why you will never win this war. The American people are fighting for their way of life. They cannot be scared into panic. They will not be brought to their knees by your war of nerves. They become more decided every day your war goes on. They know they have no way but to win it.
Yes, I'm afraid you've been deceived about us, Herr Reichschancellor Hitler. I'm afraid you've been badly deceived. Yes, you've bought a few traitors here and there. You've planted a few spies. You've caused a few deluded men and women to doubt democracy. Why, you've even tried your oldest trick on us to get us fighting among ourselves. Labor against management, Protestant against Catholic, Christian against Jew, native-born against foreign-born. But we, Adolf, we are the litmus paper and the test of democracy. We, the many, the uncounted, the ordinary, who quietly take our pledge to the flag you hate and the freedom you hate, and the rights of man that you hate. No, all is not perfect here, Herr Chancellor, but I'm a free man, so I can tell you the truth, and I will. Yes, they talk about hunkies and Dagos, Micks and Polacks. They say, oh, we got a many foreigners around here. They say, well, what can you expect with all these foreigners? Yes, that's quite true. And yet, Adolf, no matter where I go, no matter what bad accent I speak, I can say I am an American, and no one will dare to laugh. These are good American names. Stone, Marshall, Saltonstall, Magruder, Frost. These are good American names, too. LaGuardia, Eisenhower, Adamick, Knudsen, Nimitz. They're all good American names, Adolf. And as we say in America, that's all. Period, Adolf. Well, I can't explain this to you because there is no way of explaining it, and your crazy mind wouldn't understand anyhow. I can say that those who fight for freedom in the United States Army today have every name in the world, but still that isn't enough. You see, we are quiet, we alien-born, because after all, Adolf, we are still learning. We're even a little shy. When our children come back from school so assured and yet with questions, why, we are proud of those children. We see them grow big and free, taking rights for granted, and that's fine. That's just what we want, Adolf. But even they do not know quite the price of freedom as we know it. Not even they. We hear those long in the land who talk of their country, our country. We know who speaks true and who speaks false. And we listen well to those who speak true, Adolf, for their fathers made this land. But even many of them do not know the price of freedom as we know it. Not even they. We, the pilgrims of 1,000 unnamed and forgotten Mayflowers, our freedom and our citizenship was bought with all we have. It was bought with a dream in our mind, the dream of a free, lucky country where life would be good and human beings equal. It was bought with travail and poverty and the wrenching up of old memories and fear and hope and faith. Yes, Adolf, with a great price we bought this freedom, and that price seems little today. We'd pay it again and again, Herr Reichschancellor Hitler. Skin for skin we would pay it. 10 times over we would pay it, Mr. Hitler. There was a town called Lidice, Adolf Hitler. We know what happened to that town. There was a city named Rotterdam and a city named Krakow, and that is why we are against you, Adolf Hitler. We, the alien-born, the new Americans whose children shall be Americans. Against you and against you forever. Against you living or dying, against you waking or sleeping, against you every minute, every hour, every day. You would bring to this country the things we escaped and hated. You would poison the air and the water and the minds of our growing children. Why, you would drag them back, not even to the life we knew, Adolf, no, but to the life of a serf, the life of a slave. But we have tasted liberty, Adolf. We've seen liberty walk in the streets. No, right, we were not at Lexington or Gettysburg, but the names that we make today shall be names as shining. All over the country they answer, the Americans, the alien-born. All over the country they answer for the free world, the good thing, the old tradition, and the new.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America.
Those, Adolf, are Greeks, Italians, Croats, Slovenians, Americans.
For which it stands.
Those, Adolf, are Romanians, Bohemians, Russians, Latvians, Norwegians, Americans.
Indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Those, Adolf, are Danes and Swedes, Irish, French, Spaniards, Americans. Americans. Humbling voices, Adolf. Voices with accents, very heavy accents, every accent, but meaning it. Meaning every word. We, who are the test of democracy, the litmus paper of democracy.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America.
And that is all, Herr Reichschancellor Hitler. That is all, dear Adolf. Period.
You have just heard Dear Adolf, starring Joseph Schildkraut, the last of a series of 6 narrative letters written each week by Stephen Vincent Benet and presented by the National Broadcasting Company in cooperation with the Council for Democracy. The program was directed by William Sweets with original music composed by Tom Bennett and conducted by Joseph Stopak. These broadcasts are based upon actual letters written to Hitler by Americans. Your letters commenting on the series will be appreciated. Copies of today's Dear Adolf letter may be secured without cost by writing directly to the Council for Democracy, 11 West 42nd Street, New York City. This program came to you from New York. This is the National Broadcasting Company.